I'm having all kind. There we go. Hello, Connected Empowerment. This is Tony Hightower again. I am here, and you have a special treat today. I'm here with Laura, actually a combat veteran and a battle buddy of mine. We went to Desert Storm together many, many years back. And her husband, her handsome husband, Carlos. They're both retired police and also veterans. So thank you guys for taking the time to talk to me. Both living where now?
Well, we're in East Tennessee now. It's in the Jonesboro area. It's very East Tennessee.
Very East, very East.
Uh-huh.
And I just reconnected recently with Laura. So, I mean, we've been on Facebook for a while, but there was a story, and I want to hear all about your life, but I want you to kick it off with something that happened to you guys recently. And I know you shared the picture on Facebook, and it really hit me hard. And that was coming home to a house with new construction and you finding a nuisance. So can you kind of walk back and tell us what happened with that?
I guess I'll take it. About a month or so ago, has it been about a month or so? We have a new house being built, actually about 33 miles away from here in a different county. We live in Washington County. It was over in Greene County, Tennessee. One day, Laura goes over. I spend the night out there every night to make sure that we don't have any things come up missing. And she came over the next day. I was back over at our home here in Jonesboro. She came over and she found a noose hanging in the doorway straight through the garage. Where you go through the garage door into the house, there was a noose hanging there.
It's the first thing you see.
First thing you see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hanging from a 2x4. And it was an obvious noose. There was no other purpose for it. Yeah, it was made out of wire, and somebody did a really good job making a noose, but there was no doubt about what it was, what the intent was.
I saw the picture. What was your reaction, Laura? How did you feel when you found that?
I was furious, absolutely and completely and utterly furious. But sadly, I wasn't surprised, because in order to get to our house, we passed houses that have Confederate flags flying. So we know what some of these southern areas are about, especially in the country. So I wasn't surprised, but I was furious because it hurt me, because he had to experience that. That's what he had to. And I brought him here because we're here because my family's here, so I was embarrassed for the area. I was embarrassed for white people. I was and I was mad because he had to go through that.
My response was a little different. I actually got angry about it after the fact, but initially, it's I guess the experience I've had. I grew up in East Texas, where obviously everything is sort of covert, but it's still there. Obviously, it wasn't a surprise to me to see a noose. It doesn't surprise me to see rebel flags or anything, because I grew up in an area similar to this area, where the attitudes are basically the same. And I think the thing that's happening right now, in conjunction with that happening with us, and then with the death of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, all those things are sort of like came to a head with me and with us. We've had numerous discussions about what's actually occurring. I think that for years, what's occurred is people have actually seen things and things have actually happened, but it didn't affect I guess you'd say the whole body of the United States the way it has. White folks are actually upset about what's happening, and which is a good thing. Yeah. Like I remember Dr. King wrote in the letter from the Birmingham jail how the inaction of the majority of the good people.
The silent moderates.
It's the silent moderates, basically. Yeah. And I think that sleeping giant has been awakened. It really has. And all of a sudden, watching George Floyd die, slowly die, with under the knee of a person who used to wear a uniform similar to the one I wore for 31 years, was shocking. And it was maddening. I didn't know whether to cry or scream or do what. But I think every person seeing that knew that there was something extremely, extremely wrong with that situation.
It was terrible, but I think it was an important death.
Yeah, I think it's been a
Definitely.
tipping point, and I think, but you guys said earlier that, I mean, both retired police officers and you left. So how, I mean, and obviously Laura and I, we were doing military policing a long time ago too. So I mean, we've all three been doing policing for years and years and years. And I think that there's a special calling and a love for the badge. So there's, to me, two types of officers: those ones like us that have the calling to protect those that, whom we serve, and then there's the ones that are power hungry that go, oh, badge equals power, and I'm going to misuse it. And I
Right.
think we're seeing the tipping point where we're seeing a lot more officers, which is the reason that I left personally. Why did you guys leave police? Did you leave with a really great feeling that we were in the right place, or do you feel like we really need to change some things?
Well, after 31 years, I was at the point where I was ready to retire. I was ready to go. In my career, I saw from the beginning, from 1987 all the way up until 2018. When I first joined the police department in 1987, there were things that I saw that were shocking to me. But because I grew up in East Texas, it wasn't unusual until I actually started going. I actually went to school and completed a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and went to the police academy and started understanding how things are supposed to actually operate. Then I realized that there were police officers doing things they shouldn't be doing.
I believe that it's becoming a little bit too, well, a lot too militant. The way we dress, the armament we have, including even getting the military gear, it seems like a good thing, but it's not. I mean, the police are looking more military. Just take a new recruit. We talk about this a lot. He used to be in training and recruiting. Get a new recruit, a male recruit, and they look normal. Within a short period of time, they get that high and tight military cut, and they take on a whole different persona. And even their wives will comment of how they've changed. A lot of times divorce happens and stuff, and they always say, you're not the same person you used to be. It changes them. The power changes them.
You know, I don't want to be mistaken to say that police work is a bad profession or anything. The only thing that I actually recognized at my years of working there are people that want to be there. And like you said, there are people there that there's something else going on. There's some sort of program working on in the background. And because I actually promoted up to the position where I had to make decisions whether or not to terminate people. And in our organization, it was when you got to that point, I should say, early in my career, it was very hard for a police officer to lose his job. But as you get more and more police officers, the profession, people that actually get educated, all those things, then they start realizing how important it is for supervisors to be supervisors. And I'm telling you, sometimes it's hard to get rid of those folks because you even have supervisors that are afraid to pull the trigger to get rid of somebody. And I mean, you encounter that quite often in police work, I guess in any profession. But the police have got to clean up their own house. We've got to do that.
Suggest strongly that they recruit actively.
Yes.
Hard-hitting recruiting of females.
Yes.
Specifically of all races.
Oh, yes.
But females have an ability to speak instead of using force. And so this has been proven through research. So they need a lot of females, including in the upper management. You need chiefs of police being females and stuff, because they're going to take on the culture of their leadership. And if their leadership is community oriented and will not tolerate militant behavior, then they're going to fall in place. But there's a lot more that they can do. But until you start changing the upper management, it's not going to happen.
That's a great point, Laura. I was the chief of police at the VA Little Rock, and man, the looks of shock and horror when a female came in as chief of police.
Yes.
And what you said is absolutely correct. I mean, being in the military and being a military police, you look exactly like the people you're policing. So everybody has a high and tight. Everybody has their hair up. Everybody has the same uniform on, and so they want to compare police to military police, but we look like those that we serve. We dress like, we act like, we talk like those we serve. We've got to do the same thing in the communities, and that's exactly we're not doing that. We're when I was chief, I said I'm taking off the uniform, and I didn't wear it. I wore just button down shirt and just 511s, and just said, I'm you guys. I'm one of you. I'm
Yes.
just this badge means I get to be you. And so you
Right.
tell me what you need. And I think we forgot that somewhere along the way, is that connection with each other, where we can actually talk to each other and be nice and civil. And Laura, that's absolutely right. We need that diversity. We need females. We need the calmers. We need
Mhm.
a lot more than what we're seeing now. So that's
Right.
that's a great point.
This is not saying that there's anything wrong with males. It's just
not
that
at
we
all.
need a lot more.
No.
If females are like 51% of the population, well, we need at least about that in the police department. Look, I was the first female lieutenant in our department, and we had been around since the late 1800s. How is that possible? How is that even possible? I mean, seriously, I mean, they're not doing a good enough job. I'm not talking about my department. I'm talking about police in general. I'm sure there are some that are more progressive, but they're just doing a terrible job of being more progressive, and they could do better. But it needs to be turned up over on its head. You know, it's kind of like politics. It just needs to be changed.
That's right.
Yeah.
It needs
Well,
to be
I think
different.
I think what we've discussed is that you need to have a relationship with the people you police.
Yes.
And the problem is that if you study history, you understand the history of policing, particularly in the South, I guess all over the nation. And from an African American standpoint, when I first became a police officer, several of my friends asked me, "Why would you want to do that job?" And I mean, because that was like a slightly above being a garbage man, I guess, and to a lot of folks in the African American community, and because there's a history there. And when I went to school, I started realizing that there was a history based on slave patrols, the whole thing. I actually did a paper when I was at Sam Houston about the history of policing, the relationship between the police and the community. And no matter how you try to frame the situation, the police we make an effort toward having relationships. And when I say relationship, I mean with the gay community, African American, Native American. If you have any minority in your community, you need to start talking to those folks.
Yes.
If you're going to represent those people, you have to talk with them. And I think quite often you have those police officers that actually have this attitude that, by God, we go in, we're the wolf, we're the sheepdog, and they're the sheep.
That's how that's what training is. I mean, any training you go to, that's what they actually teach you. You know, that's what you are, and everybody else is sheep. That's got to change too. You know, so this is not just the fault of the police. It's everywhere. It's systemic. You know, even the training is systemic. But speaking of training, they really need to start requiring more education.
Yes.
Because those with higher degrees of education, bachelors and up, we don't have as many problems with them. They can think their way. They have critical thinking skills.
Right.
You know, weeds out a lot of those.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is.
Connection. That's a great point. So you guys, besides being awesome retired military and police and all the other things that you do, are an interracial couple. So how does that feel in Texas? Really? And I know I didn't realize that until just now. But how did that feel in Texas and now in Tennessee? Or do you see strange looks when you guys walk down the street, or do people kind of give you that glance still? I mean, you would think in 2020 that would never be the case, but I'm sure based on the news that you guys found, that's probably still occurs.
Because people have learned about political correctness, it's not an overt hatred like it would have been even 20 years ago. But you can still feel it. We're very much capable of feeling the vibes from people, you know, the people that don't like it. So it wasn't that long ago. We got to remember what Loving versus Virginia was in 1967, I think it was. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I was one. I shouldn't say how old I am, but I was 1 year old. So it was within my lifetime that a landmark case was decided. So this is still a relatively new thing for people to accept. And a lot of those people are very much alive, like me, you know, and some were older and stuff. So we're still dealing with that. And then, of course, social conditioning. We're all trained by our own family members. So if your family members are rabid racists, you're probably going to be too, unless you're able to get out of that situation. The school sometimes helps. You know, they claim that higher education will teach you to be a liberal. Well, no, maybe it's just teaching you to think. You know, think beyond your social think beyond your social conditioning.
I think that there's a actual saying in one of my favorite movies, "Oh brother, where art thou?" That's not in my culture and heritage. You see, and we laugh about that all the time.
We do.
Culture and heritage. And the problem with culture and heritage is this: everything is diluted because our history, we've been lied to. If you go back and you look at the history that we learned in junior high and high school, even all the way down to elementary school, was skewed in one direction. We really don't talk about history the way history is, the truth about history. So people get caught up in culture and heritage and all those different things, and they really don't even know the truth about their true culture and true heritage.
Right.
Interracial relationships have been going on. My great-grandmother was a product of an interracial relationship. She was born in 1890. Whether it was not a consensual relationship, obviously, or it might have been, I don't know exactly. But the thing about it is, if you were so afraid of interracial relationships, it's kind of late now to stop it. You know what I'm saying? But not that there's something wrong with interracial relationships. I think that that's how we actually move forward from one place to the other when we actually see everybody as human beings. Some folks say, I don't see color. I'm like, no. You need to see color.
We should.
You really do need to see my color.
Yeah, be accepting of it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. You need to see me for that I'm African American, or some folks will walk up and say, are you Hispanic or you African American, whatever. I said, look, I'm. If you looked at my DNA, it comes from all over different parts of Europe, parts of Africa, Native American, all those different things are all in there. So guess what? My family's already done the hard work for me. As far as being in an interracial relationship, it's already been done.
There you go. They did a great job of it.
Well,
See that? It always, and you're absolutely right. Another thing that I always heard growing up was, well, if you date somebody of color, or and of course I'm gay, so, or if you come out as gay, you're just making things hard on yourself. Why would you do that? I think the question should be, why would that make it hard on me? If I love who I love, instead of going, just conform to society and just date a white person, or just be that white conservative Christian, and then nothing will be hard on you. But why don't you think about what you're saying and go, why am I in this tiny box? Why can't it just be love who you love, and you're allowed to your own beliefs, because that's what the country was founded on. And so I always wondered why that was said. Well, don't make it hard on yourself. Just conform. But why?
Why? Conform. Yeah, exactly. Conform to other people's standards. That's not fair. We're fortunate, and you're fortunate that, it is getting better. We're making progress compared to what it was. My mother was married to a black man, and she had, this has been 20, 25, 30 years ago. She had a very difficult time. Even her own father would not let her husband in his house to use the bathroom even, so that was her father, which is my grandfather. But and clearly I don't feel the same way. So it's getting better. The more interracial marriages we have, the more accepting we are of LGBT. That kind of stuff is important. And also Supreme Court decisions, allowing people to get married to whomever they want to get married to. These kind of things are extremely important. But we can't give up. We can't stop. Like what they're doing with the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff, they have to keep going, because usually they run out of steam. They're not running out of steam, and I'm super proud of them.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is too, when we consider about what your beliefs, your culture, heritage, or whatever it is you have. I grew up in a family that they were very conservative, but their conservatism stopped at the threshold.
Yeah.
So they went everything. They were not. They didn't judge other people based on what their concepts were, what they thought they should be doing.
Right.
And it's okay, because we're rather conservative when it comes to money, different things.
Fiscally conservative. I'm very liberal on socially liberal.
But when it comes to someone else's, like I said, that's why it stops at my threshold.
Yeah.
I basically say, let other folks do what they want to do.
Yes.
Okay. If it doesn't break the law, if no one's getting killed or murdered behind that, go ahead, do what you need to do. That's it. And the thing about it is, I think that's a good part about the military. Different things is we're supposed to be there in the military and the police is to protect everyone's rights.
Yes.
Every single person in our jurisdiction, even those people that come into the jurisdiction, you have to protect the other person's rights. If you have some sort of ill will toward a person because of their sexuality, because of their color, because of their race, you shouldn't have that job.
The police, though, are required, in my view, to reach out to the Black community specifically, though, because they've also been socially conditioned, and for very good reason, to dislike and distrust the police. And that kind of relationship, it's going to require constant relationships to mend what has been broken there. It is severely fractured, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not a one-time deal. It's not a little hand-holding from time to time. It's constant, and constant communication in order to change that.
Well, like before I retired, I told the officers that, new officers that came in, and I actually went to community meetings, and when you've arrived where you should be as an organization, a police organization, when a police officer drives through the neighborhood and everyone waves at him and they know him by his first name.
Yes.
And I don't care if you have 500 police officers, and those 20 that work there, every single person, they know him personally, or her, I should say. They know that police officer. You have a relationship with them. And the only way you'll ever get to that point, you have to get out of the car.
Yes.
You have to talk to people.
All of them.
You have to constantly, even in the areas that kind of make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. You got to get out of the car and talk to folks.
They tend to try to put that into the community policing sections, so only a few officers are doing community policing, and everybody else is doing real policing and stuff. And that's our only community outreach, are those few little officers that do
community
that.
policing should be real policing.
That is the real policing.
It is the real policing.
Is the real
it
policing.
absolutely is the real policing. Yes.
I always told my guys, think about going on scene where you know everybody. How easy is it to de-escalate a situation? When you already have that relationship, you've already done the connection part. You can just come in and go, you know what, Carlos? Hey, did you see that Rock movie? I know we love The Rock, so let's talk. And I connect with you right away. We start to de-escalate the situation, and start to, come closer to me, and we can talk it through. So I mean, it's so important to do that, and thank you guys for sharing so much. I mean, this is just such complicated times that we have, and so many complex issues, but we do know that there's great police out there, and sorry that you guys aren't doing it anymore, because I know, Laura, I followed you closely on your career to see what you were out there doing, and just beating down that glass ceiling, and coming out as a lieutenant, being a combat military police officer at times where we thought, well, women wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do enemy prison of wars. We wouldn't do all these other things. And here's Laura out there running across the desert doing the right thing. Me, I'm just losing warplanes and fixing guns. I wasn't an MP yet, but I've been watching you for a long time. Just do great things to bring police forward. Carlos, I know that you do well. I'm sorry about what you've experienced, but I'm glad that you're there and that you're modeling what right looks like for love, and maybe that will show everybody who doesn't think you should be a couple, and Missy and I always say, if we just hold hands and we're just steady, they'll just see that it's just, we're just married. It's not two women, it's just a marriage. And I think
there you go. That's all it is. It's just a marriage. It's like that. It's just a marriage.
That's right. I get in trouble, and my wife is fiscally responsible like you are, Laura. She's very conservative with the money. She does good, because me, I spend it before it comes in. So she's taught me well. And we do well only because of her. So yes, I appreciate it.
I look forward to meeting her. I'd love to meet her. You'll either have to come here, or I'll have to go out there and see you.
We would
actually we'll probably see you, because he has family there in Texas still. So
well, you're always welcome at this house. So please come, and we'll break bread, and appreciate it. So I know our time's getting short here, so we'll sign off, but I thank you guys so much. And for all of you that are listening, Connected Empowerment, this is the story of the day. There are a lot of great police out there. We just need to look how we do policing. We need to get back to community policing, and remember that badge is one of honor, and it is for the community of which we stand, and that is who we should be protecting and connecting with. And there, what? Love is just love. So it doesn't matter the skin color or the gender. It's just love, and when love is good, it's a God thing. So thank you guys for what you do. Thank you for your service to the country, the service to our nation, and I'm so glad that we got to reconnect. So thanks for your time, and have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.